Now I'm just going to go through some different question types for ELA and then a few for math, just so that you can see the different types of questions that your child may be exposed to when they are taking the FSA. So this is a reading example. So basically you can see that there is a passage. This looks a little bit different because it looks like it's computer-based. When the kids are taking it paper pencil, they'll see the entire passage at the same time, and then the questions will be on different pages, but they can refer back to the passage anytime they'd like to. So this question says, with which two sentences would the author agree? Of course, we'd make sure that the students take their time and read carefully to know that they would have to choose two answers. So there may be various questions in which the children have to choose two answers. Again, here's just that same question as before. So you can see that there are 5 different choices, and the children have to choose 2 correct answers in order to get this question correct. So it would be really important when answering a question like this to go through all 5 answers and really think about which ones make sense in relation to the passage. Here's another one in which the kids would have to select 2, but now it says select 2 sentences that show how online classrooms and regular classrooms are alike, and all you see there is a full paragraph. So basically they would have to choose 2 sentences out of that paragraph for the correct answer. Now I believe on the test what will happen, since it's paper pencil, is that in the front of each sentence there would be a letter that the students would bubble in to show that that would be their correct answer choice. Students may also see some of these types of questions where there are Part A and Part B. We have done lots and lots of these on our weekly reading tests that we give in the class. Part A and Part B go together, and so you might see that one has a main idea and Part B is the details. This one says, how has learning from distant places changed over time? And then Part B says, select one sentence that supports the answer in Part A. So a lot of times when you have Part A and Part B, they directly go together, where one is an answer and then the second one is a detail that supports it. It's important for kids to make sure that the 2 answer choices they choose directly go with one another. An important thing to understand about these types of questions is that they do have to get Part A and Part B correct in order to receive full credit for that question. Students may or may not be expected to answer this type of question in which there's a box with lines in it, and what they would have to do is write their answer very clearly so that it can be read when it is being scored. The important thing about this is that all writing has to be done inside of the given box on those lines. Anything that goes outside the box will not be scored. Students have had lots of practice with this type of question too, with all of the different text-based responses that we've done throughout the year, so they definitely should be prepared for that. Here's another ELA example. And this one is assessing a vocabulary standard in which the students would have to figure out what the word weave means in that sentence. So you can see that the sentence is there. Also, students can go back to, in this case, paragraph 3 to read that word in context to be able to determine the meaning of it. What I always recommend to kids is taking those answer choices and plugging them into the sentence where that word is, the underlined word, to see which one really makes the most sense. In ELA, the kids will also have to answer proofreading type questions, and you can see the way they're set up here. So they're in little, what look like paragraphs, and they all kind of go together to tell a little story. And the kids have to determine which word in parentheses would complete the sentences where the blank line is. And so they would have to put together a lot of the grammar type of skills that we've learned this year: possessive nouns, spelling, verb tense, pronouns, proper nouns, so they would have to really apply some different grammar that we've learned this year. Now, if we move on to math, I'll go through these ones quickly too. This is just basically a multiple choice question. It's pretty basic. The kids will have definitely have lots of space to show their work on the FSA as well inside their practice book. Here's a different one that says select all the expressions that have a value of 48. So I would just note that it doesn't tell you how many to choose, but there are 5 answers, and the kids just have to select all of them that are equal to 48. So my recommendation would be to go through each and every one and solve it and see which ones are equal to 48. In this question, what they would have to do is round each of the numbers on the left, 181, 186, and 194 to the nearest 10. And then in each line, they would select one answer. So for example, for 181, if it was rounded to the nearest 10, it would be rounded to 180. So next to 181, they would bubble in the letter A. Well, next to 186, they would bubble in the letter E because that would be rounded to 190, and so on. In this question, you can see that there are 2 beakers at the top, which the kids would have to use to find their answer. And then the question's underneath, and it says, what is the difference in liters between the amounts of water in their containers? So basically, the kids would have to subtract 23 minus 10 to find the answer of 13. But then the key is when they get down to actually gridding their answer down at the bottom, you can see that there is a gridded response. And what happens with the gridded response is that the kids have to write their answers inside the boxes at the top and then bubble in the corresponding grid underneath. So I'm going to show you how they would do that. So it's recommended for the kids to start in the very first box. So I would write my answer 13. I would put a 1 and a 3, and then I would bubble in 1 and 3. Kids could also put their answers all the way to the right. However, we recommend that they put them in the boxes all the way to the left because typically that's how we write anyways on paper, is we start from the left and we write to the right-hand side. Here's another one that says select all the situations that can be represented by 35 divided by 5. Students would basically have to read all 5 of those and determine which ones. Could be 1, could be 2, it could be all of them, and that are represented by that situation. For this question, students would just determine the quotients of each of them and then write the correct answer in the blank part of the box under where the word quotient is. This question asks the students to create an expression that can be used to find the area of the park. So if you can't see it very well, the area of the park is kind of outlined here. And then what the kids would have to do is figure out what expression could they use to find the whole entire area. So basically in this case, I would separate it into 2 different rectangles here, and then I do 7 times 9 plus 3 times 5. And in this case, I would add 63 plus 15 to get 78 square units. And again, just like reading, the answer has to be completely inside of the box. I showed you a question like this for ELA. Again, I'm not sure if students will have to answer a question like this, but if they do, they have to complete all of their writing inside of the box that's given. And then last but not least, on FSA testing days, make sure your child is well rested, make sure they have a good breakfast. They can bring a water bottle with them to keep underneath their desk. I would send in a jacket just in case the classroom is cold. And make sure, most importantly, you talk to your child about staying relaxed, being confident, and just doing their very best on the test. All right, if you guys have any other questions about the FSA, please feel free to let your child teacher know and ask away so that we can provide you with all of the information that we can. Thanks.